Excuse me a minute. There's no sound on YouTube. Okay. You can hear the Jitsi call, but not. Wait, it just came on. Sound just came on.
Yes. Can you hear me okay? So you just
Okay,
want me
I'm
to
sorry
talk.
never mind. It's coming through finally. There's a delay. I didn't realize how long of a delay.
Okay then. All right. Well, let me set the record clear. I ran a fishing boat. I swung a hammer. I did roofing. I cleaned toilets. I scraped barnacles off boats to make enough money to buy a sandwich. You can believe it or not. I built a 33-foot double ender with an 8-foot bowsprit gaff rig catch in my backyard. Just an ordinary guy, but a guy with a lot of ambition. And after I lived in the boat for 5.5 years, I was coming back down from up New England on my way to the Bahamas to share the gospel, as a matter of fact. And I ran into an I-beam, the boat sank. And 2 years later, or maybe it was 3, I won a lawsuit against the people that put the thing there that sank. Everything I owned was gone. And I met a friend, and he said, well, he went to law school. He sailed with me. And he said, well, I'll double dog dare you to take the LSAT exam and see how well you can score. He'd already become a lawyer. And I said, well, okay, fine, I'll take your exam. I'm willing to take a challenge. So I did really, really well. I was teaching in a private Christian school in Orlando for 3 years. I told the headmaster I'm going to apply to one school, just one. I applied to the same school my friend went to, Stetson in Florida, and they accepted me. Even then, the rumor was out that I was some kind of a campaigner, that I had an agenda, and I did then and I do now. And my agenda is to lift the veil on this darkness that has enshrouded not only the American people, but people throughout the world from the beginning of time, so that you don't know what they taught me in law school. And here comes the zinger. Pretty much everything I learned in law school, I can teach to an 8th grader if I can get one to sit still long enough. Let me say that again. 3 years of law school, over $100,000 in books and tuition. I made that money lawfully, actually. I wrote about navigation and building boats and how to tie knots and stuff like that. And after all that time, I look back on it and I realize that very little did I learn in law school that I cannot teach an 8th grader if I can get the 8th grader to sit still long enough. It's not rocket science, but you weren't told, nobody told you. So here's the deal. Too many people today, because they don't understand the power that they have in the court. Some people laugh. I gave a seminar one time and said things like that, and the whole room just broke into laughter. And then I said, well, give me a chance, I'll prove it. And I did prove it. And I've been proving it now for 26 years with the website howtowinincourt.com. So here's the deal. People who don't know how to fix something, they get confused. They use whatever tools they think they have. And too often those tools end up being destructive of the person who is using the tools and destructive of the lives of other people. And if we could only get all of these people that don't know how to deal with things other than just to react or set fire to police cars. Of course, you know that's not going to make the world safe for anybody. I hope we don't have anybody on the group here that thinks setting fire to police cars is going to make the world safer for children. Sometimes violence is necessary. We know that. Sometimes violence is necessary. But I have to ask the question, and I hope you guys are thinking, and when I finish my little chat here, you can say what you want to say. I don't have a lot of time. I've got to get away to do some things this afternoon really early. But when the violence is over, when we've done the violence, because we didn't know any better, we didn't know how to do it any other way. We didn't know how to use the courts. We didn't yet understand that the court controls the legislature. The courts control the White House. The courts control every other branch of government, has to answer to the courts if, here's the big if somebody brings a case. Somebody who understands how to write a pleading, a complaint. It's called a complaint or a petition, but it's again, I can teach an 8th grader this stuff. A lot of it in a weekend. A lot of it in an afternoon. But you didn't know this because nobody told you. And I've dedicated my life to tell you and to beg you today to be people who will tell other people what I told you, because this is doable. This is the answer. This is the solution to all these things that are troubling all of us. I happen to be extremely troubled about what's going on in this country and throughout the world, where rich and powerful people just seem to think they're just going to take over everything and the rest of it just going to work for a living. So when the violence is over, what then? If all we have is violence, if that's our solution, how is that going to create the world that we want? We have to come back to brass tacks. We have to rebuild. We have to restructure. We have to create a system so that we can have commerce, so that we can have streets and electric wires that come to our homes, so that we can have food at the grocery store that was made 2,000 miles away or sometimes on the other end of the planet. We have to have a system. We have to have government. We've got people out there, bless their hearts, they're confused, they're upset, they feel disenfranchised, they feel like, I don't have any power, this isn't right, I got to do something. So they do the wrong thing. If we can get the people to understand this, that I say, whether it's I say it or you say it, that if we can get people to understand liberty, that's what we want. We want liberty, we want peace, and we want prosperity. But you see, you can't have prosperity without peace. You can't have liberty without peace. And you can't have peace by violence alone. Violence by itself is not peace. Violence has its place. Once peace dissolves, once there's no other option, violence has its place. But when we get done with the violence, then we got to rebuild the thing that we tore down. We got to rebuild it for the sake of the women and the children. That's our job, men and lady, who whatever, there we go. But it's our job. And once the peace has just gotten to the point where they're just completely out of control and we don't have any other options, then I suppose we have to resort to violence, and the end of violence is anarchy. And once you have anarchy, guess what happens? Tyranny. Tyranny is what fills the gap when you have anarchy. When you tear down the government that you have, then the government that's going to come in is going to come in by force. And they have guns that you don't have. They have, well, hellfire rockets. They will take you out. So my suggestion is, why don't we learn how to agree? Why don't we use this place, which is a place where people can be forced to agree, a place where people can be compelled to agree. And that place is the courthouse. Down at your county courthouse, your county seat, there's people sitting down there. Some of them might not be everything you'd like them to be, but every last one of those people with the black robes, male or female, can be compelled to do things because somebody died for your right to be heard. somebody engaged in violence and lost their life or lost their leg or lost their right, so that you have a right to be heard. And when you know how to do this, when you know how to walk into that courtroom with all those wonderful people behind you, all those ghosts of people that gave everything for your right to be there, and you've got that confidence and the knowledge. Confidence is good, but when you have the knowledge and you know how to file a complaint, you know how to do these very simple things that an 8th grader can learn, now you walk in there and you find that courts and judges can be controlled. I've proven it for 26 years. I've been teaching people with the website for 26 years. It was called Jurisdictionary. The Jurisdictionary website's still there, but when you go to jurisdictionary.com, it redirects to howtowinincourt.com, which is a word somebody can more easily remember. The courts control all the rest of government. And people have been missing this, missing this opportunity, thinking that, well, we're going to control the legislature, we're going to control the governor, we're going to parade in front, we'll do this, we're going to, whatever it is not getting the job done. In fact, I think we're worse off now than we were 30 years ago, as far as this idea that the people are going to make the government do what the people want the government to do. And the way you make the government to do what you want the government to do is you use the courts. You get the judge to sign an order, something that I can teach an 8th grader how to do. In fact, once you guys get into it, make an effort, you can teach 8th graders how to do it, because I kid you not, it is not rocket science. It is not differential calculus. It is very, very basic. So why not learn how to get what you want peaceably? Why go to all this other stuff? That other stuff is for people that don't know any better. I mean, I can understand their emotion. I can understand their frustration. I've been frustrated. I mean, when I was scraping barnacles off boats to make enough money to buy a sandwich, I was pretty frustrated. But I've worked hard, I've studied hard, and I have discovered something that apparently other lawyers either don't know about or don't care about or don't want to tell you about. And that is, well, I'll say it again and again. An 8th grader can learn this stuff, and we can teach ourselves. We adults can learn this. We can teach our children this. It's going to take a lot of time, going to take a lot of effort, but it's definitely doable. And setting fire to police cars doesn't work. Violence alone cannot get you what you want. When the violence is over, what do you got? If you don't have wisdom, if you don't have a place to go and get agreement, if you don't have a place to go where you can force stupid people, I hate to bring it up, but I will bring it up, stupid people that have somehow gotten into our schools and teaching our children all kinds of garbage, and we don't know how to do about it, so we'll parade around with signs. It's not changing anything. Setting fire to police cars isn't changing anything. The way to change things is you go into the courthouse and you make these people appear and sit in the witness box and answer your questions and produce documents and explain to you, why is it that they think that these things are okay, that the boys can come into the girls' bathroom and all this other stuff that ought to make you people really, really angry. But please don't take up weapons. Please don't set fire to police cars. Liberty and peace and a fair shot at prosperity for each and every one of us. That's what we want. That's what we want. We want liberty. We want peace. And we want a fair shot at prosperity. Judges can be controlled. And when a judge signs an order, the legislature has to obey. Your governor has to obey. Your legislature has to obey. The Congress has to obey. The sheriff has to obey. In fact, the sheriff takes his orders directly from the chief judge in most counties in this country. The judge is the power. This was all devised a long time before any of us were born. It's a good system, but the people who are being allowed to run the system are running it into the ground. They're running it to benefit corporations. They're running it to benefit rich people. And I don't want you people to be frustrated to the point where you're going to be going around setting on fire on police cars when you could be promoting this idea. Public legal education, a moral imperative. We can do this. I can't do it by myself, But with your help, and when we come together and make up our minds, we are going to do this. We're absolutely going to learn how to do this. First thing we have to do is learn. And that's where the rubber hits the road. I taught school for a while. I had some students who would actually read their assignments and do their homework. And then I had other students who just wanted to go, drink beer and shoot pool. So if we're willing to roll up our sleeves and be true Americans and stand up for what America stands for, because America stands for, above everything else, your right to be heard, to call witnesses, to require people to answer questions under oath or go to jail. That's your right. That's your power. Setting fire to police cars is not very much power when you really get down to it. I hope I've made my point. Well, let me answer your question, and I really appreciate having this opportunity, but I have got to go somewhere right away. Okay, I've known the Brunson brothers for 20 years. I've been to Utah. I had dinner with them, and I have talked with them, and I have made some suggestions, but I'm not going to go into what that was all about at the time. But let me get back to what I have to say, and then I'm going to have to shut down. And I hope you guys will sit around and toss it around, see if maybe what I'm suggesting is the answer. I believe it is. I don't believe there are any other answers. But the whole issue is that when we know how to do this, and we have the law on our side, and we have the facts on our side, and we know how to get the evidence into the record. It's not hard to learn how to do. You don't know how to do it now, but you will learn how to do it if you make an effort. When you know how to do these things, you know how to look up and find out what the law actually is, and not what Bill or Sam or Judy told you it is, because that doesn't carry any weight at all in court. But when you know how to find what the official law is and what it says, and you know how to draft a pleading, a complaint, or a petition, you know how to write a motion the proper way, it's not hard to learn, then you have power. And then you're not somebody that's trying to play baseball with a tennis racket. The judges will not allow you to play baseball with a tennis racket. And if you file some kind of paper, as many people do, I've been talking to people now for 26 years since I started all this thing on the internet. People go to court, they don't know what they're doing. And they write a bunch of stuff down and they think that somehow that ought to work for them. That's like somebody trying to play baseball with a tennis racket. When you do it the correct way, you put all the pieces, parts together. Some of you may not remember what a distributor is, and points, and a condenser, and a coil. That's the way we had ignition back before computers. There's a certain way that it works. And if you don't put all the pieces together, the engine will not run. When you go to court and you know how to put the pieces together in the proper way, according to the rules of procedure and the rules of evidence, just 2 sets of rules to learn, they're not hard. Every rule, every federal evidence rule in every federal court, civil or criminal, it's about 19 pages. Not too much to learn. Procedure is a little harder to learn, but it's not difficult. It's not rocket science. You can teach an 8th grader how to do this. What I want you to do, please talk about this among yourselves. Try to call down these people that don't know any better, so all they can do is be angry. They haven't made an effort to learn how to do it peaceably. And marching into court with the proper kind of paperwork, it is more fun than anything you can do with your clothes on. I gotta go, guys. I really do. And I love you. I hope you'll take this to heart. And I look forward to talking to you guys at another time. But I have got people banging on my door. I've got to run. It's up to you. You know what to do.
Yeah, Jitsi Meet is a platform that will accommodate thousands of people. And just like other platforms, if you don't remember, Twitter just announced Twitter Spaces, which is now x.com, of course. That's a new feature for them. But Jitsi's been doing this for a couple of years now. But this is where we need to assemble. We need to organize our states in order to do what Dr. Graves is talking about, is to share ideas with each other and strategize how we're going to use whatever legal tactics are necessary to control the courts. So I'm actually was hoping that Dr. Graves would explain how he can help the Brunson brothers in the Supreme Court case, because right now I believe that's the most important case that will affect the most amount of people to get justice in here in the United States of America. Well, there needs to be more transparency. And what I mean by that statement is that the information, when you say that we need to represent ourselves, well, how do you represent yourself at the Supreme Court level? Because all of the different layers of courts have already been exhausted and we're still not getting satisfaction. How do you represent yourself at the Supreme Court level? That is really for somebody that's their career, that's their job. That's not a person just doing it, for themselves. It's actually that's why politicians are politicians, because they're supposed to represent the people that has elected them. That's exactly what I mean. And so here's our predicament. So you've got three branches of government: the legislature, which is Congress; the White House, which is the executive office; and then the judiciary, which is the Supreme Court. Now, when one of those branches of office violates their oath of office, the other two branches need to step in and hold that branch accountable. But what do you do when all three branches do not uphold their oath of office? See, that's I believe is the problem that the framers have not addressed. There is no other branch of government that can step in with authority to enforce some kind of accountability when all three branches are violating their oath of office. That is, yeah, but there's nobody that if somebody has something to say, let's say it.
All right. First of all, we're in a day of what ifs. Tomorrow is a day to hope for. You know, so everybody's doing their thing right now with all this evidence, all these laws, and all this screaming and hollering of things, and every bit of it's a what if. All right. Well, the military law, general armistice, the law of war manual, chapter 12, explains it all to you in detail. If you read it in detail, the flag of truce gives you safe passage, safeguards. It instantly, you know, shows you and describes you as peaceful, as you want a resolution to cease the actions against the people, to talk to each other, peacefully parley, and then negotiate. And of course, the negotiation is accountability. We already have, everybody's done their great good works of gathering all this evidence and information of things, of the crimes against humanity and the tyranny and oppression. Well, now it's time to take it to the courts under the military law as the initial peaceful entry point of doing so. So everybody stands united under the white flag instead of under red, white, and blue flags and other colored flags. If everybody washed those flags pure with no divisions in them and stood together united in that loving kindness and peaceful with all this evidence, then that's how we all take it to court. Right. All right. Now, the reason, right, right. And they've already violated all your rights and liberties and everything else and stuff. Again, you know, you all have the evidence and this and that. You're just not, you're overlooking the peaceful resolution of it. It's a supreme law of the universe. It's a supreme law around the world. This law of war manual, chapter 12, general armistice. It's supreme in every country, and we take and we stand united. Right now, what the problem is all these armies, all these protesters, convoys, and everything else have been doing this. They have the heart for it. They have the motivation and ambition for it. But the problem is they are flying colored flags, war flags. So that mixes the message. All right. That's like, you know, putting a gun in a baby's arms of things. You know, it's like, okay, it's a child. I love the child, but he's got a firearm in his hand. Is he going to shoot me? But now, if you took and put a pacifier in the baby's hands that approaches you, like a white flag in somebody's hand, then you're like, oh, they mean no harm. There's no confusion here. They just want to talk. And then you see what I'm saying? So if we all put pacifiers in our hands, white flags, to say, hey, we're here in peace. We want to hold everybody accountable. We're not here with war flags flying to confuse the message. We're not here with our belligerent signs confusing messages and causing divisions. No, we're all here with pure hearts, just want a resolution for everybody peacefully. Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, everybody seems to be educated. Absolutely. Absolutely. And you can do that with the military law and to take and yeah, put a stop to their abuse of contracts. You know, contracts are a sin. Money's a sin. Contracts are a sin. But the thing is, you court peacefully is through the military law, flag of truce, general armistice. Just as you're ready right now, in case they go and burn up an island or, you know, create wars and this and that. I mean, it's the same thing. Absolutely right and correct. And your best weapon and armory is wisdom and understanding. So go to that chapter, read it in detail from front to back, from start to finish. You read that chapter 12, and you will gain understanding of how Trump went to these countries in 2017 and did what he did with capitulations. You will understand what that non disclosure agreement is. And also, you will learn what a general armistice is, which is for us, we the people around the world, and also what safeguards and safe passages are under this flag. I just like to add one thing is remember, let the blood of the lamb wash away your sins and the divisions, and do so with your banner, his banner, your flags, his flag, and, raise those white flags, raise his banner, and loving kindness, justice, and righteousness. Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you for having me. And yes, it does mean surrender to God and to call a truce amongst your brethren, to peacefully parlay with your neighbors and your friends, even your enemies, to peacefully talk to them for a resolution. It does mean that. It's a truce to humanity, but it is a surrender to God and his love for everybody. Mhm. Mhm. Well, that's our responsibility to govern ourselves. Right. The people are supposed to govern themselves. They're supposed to be responsible, accountable, have integrity, love one another, help one another freely and stuff. No contracts. Let your yes be yes. Let your no be no. And just be righteous, loving kindness, justice, and righteousness in your walk every day. You don't need somebody to control you and to be in contract with you about anything. You just be responsible, harm none, and do what you need to do.
May I add something?
Community.
Oh,
Go
sorry
ahead.
about that. We have to get rid of govern mentality. Govern means to rule. Government is not to
Correct.
rule us. I'm not talking about government. I'm talking about the word govern. It means the etymology of it means to rule, to steer. I don't have Black's Law right now. But that's Greek, it's to steer. Latin, it's to steer, rule.
I would say I don't have the dictionary in front of me, but I would think that it would mean to control and suppress, kind
Right.
of like the governor on your vehicle that won't allow you to go so fast or so much exhaust and whatnot.
Hang on, I'm trying to get into Black's Law Online.
I mean, you company drivers, you're all governed with governors, speed control on your vehicles. That's the same with us. We, the people, we have governments, they govern your mind and the way you think.
Oh, I agree. But they're not to rule us. They're to represent us, not rule us. Right.
We don't need groups to keep order if everybody's self-responsible. If everybody's self-responsible, then you don't need somebody trying to control you. When you renew your mind, it won't be. No, it's not. Nothing's impossible.